For years, the public believed they were watching a one-sided story unfold, where one person carried the weight of embarrassment while the others stood confidently in control. Will Smith became the face of public humiliation, replayed endlessly through viral clips, awkward interviews, and moments people laughed at instead of questioned. But quietly, the focus began to shift. The deeper people looked, the clearer it became that the chaos didn't start with reactions, it started with patterns. Jada's behavior followed a familiar cycle that repeated again and again. When uncomfortable truths surfaced, they were wrapped in vulnerability. When accusations gained traction, they were reframed as misunderstandings. And when questions became unavoidable, the conversation was redirected toward healing, growth, or emotional complexity. Over time, this approach didn't just soften criticism, it confused it. People weren't sure what they were reacting to anymore. The emotional language made it difficult to separate accountability from performance. And while the public debated whether Will looked broken or passive, very few stopped to ask who was actually controlling the narrative. That imbalance is where the real story begins, because once you recognize it, everything that follows starts to make unsettling sense. And the warning signs didn't come from one scandal, they stacked quietly over decades. As the marriage itself came under scrutiny, the explanations only made things murkier. The relationship was never described as open, yet it clearly wasn't traditional. Instead, it was labeled transparent, a word that sounded healthy on the surface, but raised more questions than answers the longer people thought about it. Transparency implies honesty, yet honesty loses meaning when only one person seems to benefit from it. What began to surface was the idea that boundaries existed, but only selectively. While the public was led to believe both partners were equally free, insiders suggested the reality didn't match that image. One side appeared to consistently cross lines, while the other absorbed the fallout. Each confession was delivered publicly, not privately, turning deeply personal issues into spectacles that Will had no choice but to participate in. That imbalance took a toll. The repeated exposure blurred the difference between truth and control. Instead of clarity, viewers were left feeling uncomfortable without fully understanding why. Hollywood whispers filled in the gaps the interviews never addressed. People inside the industry weren't shocked. They had already seen versions of this play out behind closed doors. The confusion wasn't accidental. It protected something far bigger than a marriage, and it kept attention away from what was happening when the cameras were off.
The attention eventually shifted from the relationship to the environment surrounding it, especially the home itself. Subtle moments from old interviews suddenly felt heavier when viewed through a different lens. Awkward body language, strange jokes that didn't land, tension that couldn't be explained away as shyness. Rumors began circulating that the household wasn't as stable as it appeared, and that boundaries inside the home were often blurred. Allegations surfaced, suggesting inappropriate material was openly consumed in shared spaces, creating an atmosphere many found deeply unsettling. Fans started questioning why Jaden and Willow seemed distant, guarded, or eager to escape the spotlight altogether. Their behavior wasn't loud rebellion, it was quiet withdrawal. Over time, people noticed how often they spoke about independence, separation, and creating distance from their parents' world. Some even speculated that their desire to step back from entertainment wasn't about career burnout, but about survival. The dots were never confirmed, but they were impossible to ignore. And while the public hesitated to voice these concerns out loud, someone close to the family had already seen enough to stop staying silent. That silence broke when someone who had been around for decades decided the truth mattered more than loyalty. Brother Bilal wasn't an outsider chasing attention. His connection stretched back nearly 4 decades, long before fame turned everything into spectacle. He had witnessed the rise, the relationships, and the private dynamics the public never saw. According to him, what pushed things past the point of no return wasn't gossip, it was pressure. Pressure to stay quiet, pressure to deny what he had personally seen, and pressure to protect an image at all costs. Instead of backing down, he did the opposite. He issued a challenge that caught everyone off guard. If no lawsuit came, he would take action himself. That single statement changed the entire balance of power. Suddenly, the person being warned wasn't the one speaking, it was the one being accused. The message was clear. Silence was no longer guaranteed, and neither was control over the narrative. And when a response finally came, it wasn't the one people expected.
Publicly, the reaction was loud and confident. Interviews appeared. Legal threats were announced. Words like defamation and lies were thrown around with certainty. It sounded decisive, almost intimidating. But behind the scenes, something strange happened. Despite the bold claims, nothing materialized. No lawsuit followed, no formal legal action shut the conversation down. The gap between what was promised and what actually happened raised eyebrows. If the accusations were completely false, why not end them in court? That unanswered question lingered, and it didn't fade. Instead, it grew louder as time passed. Observers began connecting dots that had previously seemed unrelated. The absence of legal follow-through didn't signal confidence, it suggested hesitation. And according to Brother Bilal, hesitation only happens when the truth carries risk. Risk of discovery, risk of exposure, risk of evidence that can't be walked back once it's introduced. And that's when the situation escalated from words to something far more serious.
The turning point arrived with a lawsuit that flipped the entire situation upside down. Instead of defending against claims, Brother Bilal went on the offensive, filing a $3 million suit that reframed everything. The filing described alleged threats, coercion, and attempts to force silence through intimidation rather than facts. It included claims of being confronted, pressured to sign agreements, and asked to participate in actions he believed crossed ethical lines. One moment stood out above the rest, a confrontation at a private event where tensions boiled over. According to the account, warnings were delivered not as suggestions, but as ultimatums. Stop talking or face consequences. That allegation alone shifted public perception. This was no longer about gossip or embarrassment. It became a question of power and control. And just when it seemed like the situation couldn't grow darker, new claims emerged suggesting those threats didn't stop at U.S. borders.
What followed sounded less like celebrity drama and more like a real-life thriller. Claims surfaced of being watched, followed, and monitored while abroad. Strange messages appeared without explanation. Unknown individuals were seen near living spaces. Then came the most chilling allegation of all, a violent incident involving a vehicle that left lasting physical damage. Whether coincidence or something more, the timing raised alarms. The account described fear, confusion, and the realization that speaking out might carry consequences far beyond reputation. Injuries were sustained, lives were altered, and the implication was clear. Someone wanted silence badly enough to inspire fear. At that point, the story stopped being about credibility and started being about safety. And yet, despite all of this, the most disturbing part hadn't even surfaced yet.
As everything unfolded, one uncomfortable truth became harder to ignore. Hollywood runs on silence. The same names kept reappearing, the same whispers about recordings, leverage, and people protecting themselves by staying quiet. Comparisons to other scandals weren't accidental. They followed the same blueprint: powerful figures, private tapes, and fear of exposure. The idea that moments were recorded, archived, and potentially used as protection explained years of silence from people who otherwise had nothing to lose. It also explained why this story resurfaced now, at a moment when other long-buried secrets were finally being dragged into the open.
The timing wasn't random, it was inevitable, and it leaves one question hanging in the air. How much of what the public believes was ever real, and how much was carefully managed until someone finally refused to play along?
Don't forget to support the channel by liking the video and subscribing. See you soon!